Welcome, client acquisition and scaling family. I see a bunch of faces here. I know Monday mornings are hard. I hope everyone had an amazing weekend. Welcome to Monday Mindset. This is where we come every single week to feed our minds, to get tips, strategies, and even for me, get motivated for an amazing week. And I know the holidays are upon us and we have the urge to just stop and relax and rest. But this is a great time to get things done because most likely you're not going to be bugged by a lot of people because they're kind of taking it easy. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please type first in the comments. If you'd like to receive SMS reminders or email reminders, let us know. Just type SMS reminder or email reminder in the comments and we'll get that link to you so you can get signed up. Now, if you're brand new here and you've never been here before, if you're watching a replay, if you're watching on YouTube, my name is Lisa Parziel and I own a 7-figure agency in North Texas. And today we're going to talk about closing and what the keys are to closing more sales. Obviously, selling can be one of the toughest hurdles every single one of us can face. Every business owner struggles with the same things, believe it or not. We feel like we're unique, but we're not. It's the same struggle. And sales and closing is huge. When I first started my business, I honestly hated sales. And I was pretty horrible at it. Getting on a sales call made me sick to my stomach. If you can relate in the comments, type yes, type yes, because it's a horrible thing to feel like that on a regular basis, isn't it? It's a horrible thing to not want to go to sales calls. And that's what my problem is. I didn't back then even want to go on a sales call. I didn't want to show up. And when you don't show up, you can't make any sales. So I spent some time and money trying to figure out why. Like, what made me so dang uncomfortable? What made me hate selling so much, or more importantly, closing? And why did I struggle so much in the beginning to close a sale? Right? I mean, back then, I didn't have leads to waste. And so when I got a lead and I didn't make a sale, it was pretty depressing. And that's the word I'll use. It was a little bit disheartening and really was killing my motivation to want to be in business for myself. And if you can relate, go ahead and put yes, or relate in the comments, because the truth is I hated sales. And I hated sales so much. And I hate to admit this in public, but I would literally not call customers back sometimes. I would get a lead, whether it be an email lead or a phone call message, and I wouldn't call them back. I wasn't mentally in a place where I wanted to do it. And imagine I worked so hard back then to get leads. And then literally ignoring them and not calling them back out of fear. And I'm looking in the comments, done the not calling thing also. Yes, rings a bell for me too. Thankfully, I got over it. Yeah, we all have to get over it. But what I want to really impress upon everyone today, it's natural. It's normal. Every business owner does it. Right? So don't let it get you down. Instead, today we're here to figure out how to solve it. And back then, that's exactly what I did. I went on a journey. I went on a journey to figure out how to solve the sales problem I had. Like everyone, I start out the same way. I started reading books, sales books, books on closing, books on selling. I started watching videos on selling and videos on closing, trying to figure out what the heck was wrong with me. Like what part of me was broken. Now, the first thing I figured out, the first thing I was able to kind of get to was why I hated calls so dang much. And you probably have the same reasons, right? We all probably have the same reasons. I hated getting on those calls out of fear. I was fearful of rejection. I thought rejection sucked. I'm sure you do too. If I didn't close the sale, it was failures. Of course, I had fear of failure. I didn't want to fail. Failing doesn't feel good. I didn't want to hear the word no, or even be in that awkward situation that happens on a sales call. It's just awkward, isn't it? You know, you tell people something, and then there comes a point where it's like, awkward silence. What do we say next? Do we try to close the call? What do we say to the customer? Fear. So that was the first thing I realized, the first thing I figured out. I was afraid that all these things were going to happen. And even if it wasn't fear, for some of you guys, it might not be fear. It's just that level of uncomfortable. You don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want to fail. We definitely don't want to hear the word no. It's no fun. I could think of worse things. But obviously, we don't want to do that on a regular basis. So how did I get over the fear? How did I get over this problem? Well, obviously, the solution was going to be getting a yes more often than a no. I mean, that would help, wouldn't it? Would that help you feel better if you got more yeses than nos? Figuring out that I had to find a way to get people to say yes, at least then I had a diagnosis. I had this core problem, and now I know what I have to do to solve it. I'm going to feel better on call if I get a yes. So that was my next trip, right? I had to go down a journey to learn more about sales and closing and how to get a yes. And so I watched video after video after video. I watched salespeople. The styles were very different. You had very aggressive closers. Anybody here an aggressive closer? Type yes if you are an aggressive type of closer, or if you know the type I'm talking about, right? You see people like Grant Cardone. If you've ever watched a Grant Cardone video, and he says, you know, you get in there and you do this and you do that. And I mean, he is aggressive. I'm not. So watching someone like that gave me more anxiety. Literally, that made me more anxious because now I'm thinking I have to change who I am to make sales happen. And a lot of the sales videos I was watching were the same way. You have to do this and you have to do that. And then one day, I came across a video by Elmer Wheeler. And if you've never heard of him, I bet after this call, you're going to go look him up. His video made it glaringly apparent what my problem was. You see, most of the sales training videos, they were talking about me and what was wrong with me and how I wasn't saying things right and how I wasn't doing things right. Elmer didn't do that. Instead, he said one thing that got my mind going so much, it changed the trajectory of my career, my sales, everything you want to call it. And he said, sell the sizzle, not the steak. I'm going to say it again. Sell the sizzle, not the steak. Now think about that for a minute. Think about what Elmer is saying there. For most of my career up until that point, for all of the sales calls I had been on up until that very point, I would go into the sales call and I would talk about me and my products and my services and what I thought the customer wanted to hear. And customers were polite and they would listen to me. But in the end, I would hear the dreaded, oh, okay, well, let me think about it. Or I would hear all right, so I've got to think about this and I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks. Or even, yeah, no, I mean, this is just not a good fit for me. Or, it's not the right time. I got a lot of rejection, a lot of pushback, and a lot of no. And so I watched his video, and I probably, if I'm being honest, I went out and watched every variation of his video. I'm a very obsessive person when I get into something. So I went and I watched videos about him and videos about people talking about him. I wanted to understand this sales sizzle very clearly. And I'll drop a link for you guys. And no, that's not your gift, but I will drop a link for you guys after I get done here to one of the videos that I think is probably the best video that helped me understand this entire solution to my problem. Sell the sizzle, not the steak. So let's think about that for a minute. Let's think about you go to the grocery store and you want to buy a steak. Are you thinking about the cow that died for you to eat that steak? Oh my gosh, is that like horribly depressing, right? No, you're thinking about the end product. You're thinking about that steak as it comes off the grill and it sizzles and all those juices are bubbling and it's flowing off that steak. Unless you're a vegetarian, of course. And then add portobello mushroom in here instead. But as that steak is sitting there on that plate and it's resting, you're thinking about how it's going to taste. You're thinking about how it's going to feel. You're thinking about the sizzle, the end result, the enjoyment of the steak, right? To have you guys hungry? Exactly. And that's the entire point of this, right? I am selling the end result to you right now of a steak. I'm selling you the idea of how delicious it's going to taste and how juicy it's going to be in my mouth and how it's going to solve the problem I have, hunger, satiation. That is selling the sizzle and not the steak. Now, I could tell you everything you want to hear about the steak. I could tell you how many calories is in it. I could tell you its nutritional value and the fat content. I could tell you tons of things about where the beef came from and that it was from a specific cow that was grass-fed and et cetera, et cetera. And while those things are interesting, if I just go in and I show you a picture of the steak cooking and being put on a plate with the sizzle, does this remind you of something? Let's see, commercials, right? So here's a guy, Elmer Wheeler. Go back. I mean, he's from, the 40s and 50s era. And you think about what he's saying. Have you ever seen a Coke commercial where they're not pouring the Coke and you're not seeing the Coke pour over the ice? You're not seeing the carbonation and the bubbles. What are they selling? The sizzle. When they show you a commercial about Dairy Queen, same thing. They're showing you the ice cream and the toppings and you're looking at that ice cream. They're selling the sizzle. They're selling the sizzle. I'm going to look. There's a couple of comments here. My goodness, when is lunch? Exactly. When we sell the sizzle, everybody wants it, right? Juicy and bubbling. You hear and watch commercials over and over again. The key is repetition. It enters your mind. Exactly. When you feel like you want something, I want you to start noticing. I want you to look at commercials on TV a different way. What's making you want to buy that thing, right? When Taco Bell comes on, we all know Taco Bell is not that good. It's not. But if you see the commercial over and over again, maybe you want to run to the border, right? Isn't that they're saying? For me, it makes me want Mexican food, but I usually do skip Taco Bell and go for better Mexican food. But just seeing something makes you want it. So now that we know kind of a little about how I came to want to sell the sizzle in everything I do, I want to talk about the Facebook post. If you didn't see it, Go look at it. It's in the client acquisition and scaling. I put out a post last night and I sold the sizzle, not the steak. I didn't tell you what we were going to talk about today. I didn't tell you about the points I was going to cover. I didn't tell you anything about this call. What I said was, if I get 20 people to type the word key, I'm going to give you all a free gift. I'm going to give you something, and you're going to want that something. I put a little sizzle in the post last night on purpose, and we got a lot of responses. Now, I'm not going to go look yet. We were not up to 20 when I started this call. So if you have not been out there, I suggest while I'm completing this call, you go out there and you type the word key, because if there's not 20, we're not going to have any steak. Okay, I also did promise that I would talk about the keys to closing, and that was another sizzle I gave you. I was going to give you some keys. Again, when we're talking about sizzle, the word key is very important. When you think about the word key, what do you think about? Keys unlock things, right? Keys to success, keys to the castle. We like keys. Again, I was selling the sizzle. I could have said, hey, I'm just going to give you a couple sales tips. That wouldn't have been any sizzle, would it? That would have been the steak. So in everything we do in marketing, in everything we do in our lead generation campaigns, and when we're on calls with customers, I want you to always think, is this sizzle or is this steak? It's okay to present some steak, but you better have a whole lot of sizzle and a lot less steak. So key number one, you have to find the core problem, right? How can you present a solution to a customer if you have no idea what their core problem is? And we've talked about this before in past Monday Mindsets. If you're in our programs, we talk about it in our programs. What is the real reason why the customer is seeking out our help? That's key number one. You have to do that thing first. You have to find out exactly what the problem is. You have to dig deeper. So if the customer says to you, Lisa, I need more sales, I'm not going to say, okay, let me sell you an SEO campaign. Okay, let me sell you an AdWords campaign. I'm going to follow that with, well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by more sales? Tell me about your sales now. How many you're getting? I'm going to consult with them. I'm going to ask them questions. I'm going to get down to the core problem. And maybe after talking to them, and we're not going to go deep into this today because we would run out of time, but here's some foreshadowing for you. We'll go deeper if we get 20 keys. But I'm going to go deeper at least to figure out, is it really a sales problem? Or maybe for them, the same thing. It's a lead generation problem. It's a closing problem. It's a fulfillment problem. Who knows? Most customers are just like us when we start our businesses, or if we don't have the right education or the proper training. They don't know what the core problem is. They just know they're failing. When you come in and you solve that for them, when you show them and help them come up with their own core problem, in other words, don't give it to them. Even if you know it and you see it, let them say it. I'm going to say that again. Even if you know it and see it, let them say it. When they come up with their core problem, then and only then should you start thinking about solutions. And that's one of the problems we have. In the beginning, if I would get a form fill and someone would fill out the form and say, I'd ask them, what are you interested in? And maybe they put web design, or they put SEO, or they put logo design, whatever it was that they put in there. I would initially go right to that. When I got on that call with them, okay, so you need a new website. Let's talk about that. Well, wait. Fast forward to now, I would not assume that. Just because they said they wanted a new website, now it's a different conversation. When I start that call. Hey, so saw you contacted me and looking at the form you filled out. So you say you need a website, some SEO, blah, blah, blah. And that's awesome. I can help you with those things. But before we get started, do you have time to kind of talk a little bit? I really want to understand, where you're at, what problems you might be experiencing, and where you're really looking to go. So I make sure, we can get you the right solution to your problem. That's so different and so easy to say, isn't it? It's not hard. I just made that up, and you'll get better and better at that. But instead of assuming the website is the sell, I can't. I got to find the core problem first. Key number 1. What is the real reason why the customer is seeking out help? Maybe the website is the solution, but what's the problem? I like to probe as deep as I can. I would love to hear these words from a customer. I probe and probe and probe, and they finally say, listen, if I don't fix my problems, I'm going to lose my house. Now that's the core problem. Or another customer might say something like, man, I'm just tired of work. I want to have enough money to take off once in a while and go on vacation. I want to have enough money to buy a vacation home. Now that's the core problem, right? Those are things I can talk to much easier, because then I can sell the solution. I can sell the dream. Okay, key number 2. Present a solution that solves the core problem, but only talk about the end result. So when you present a solution, if you get in and you talk to them, I want you to think of the what, not the how. No how. We don't even worry about how. Those are the weeds. I'm going to stay out of the weeds, because you know what happens when we get in the weeds? We get tangled, and we get tangled, we're going to drown. And that sale is going to be a no. So that's how I taught myself. I created that mental image, as horrible as that sounds, that I don't want to get in the weeds because weeds are dangerous. So I'm going to sell the what. So if the core problem, for instance, is they need more leads because they don't have enough sales, because they're going to lose their business and or their house, then when I say to them, hey, listen, I understand, based on talking to you, this is a very imperative situation, right? And while I think you need SEO is a long game. And honestly, if, from what you're telling me, you need something to happen today, AdWords is going to be, unfortunately, the best, course of action for you today. And maybe they said, well, I don't want to do AdWords, but, you have to help them. Your goal is to help them solve their problem, not just sell them what they want. And so when I come in there and I do that type of consultation, I say, SEO, we can work on that down the road, but right now we need to get you your phone ringing today. Because if we don't, you told me you're going to lose your house, right? Yeah, I'm going to lose my house. Okay, so you don't want to lose your house, right? No. Okay, so this is what I think we should do. Do you agree? Yeah. It's a different conversation. And I probably wouldn't be that aggressive. But at the end of the day, we have to present the solution that solves the core problem, not the solution we want them to buy, not the solution we'd hoped they buy, right? When you only sell square poles, you can't sell round appendages to go on top, right? Don't be that person. Don't sell them what they don't need. And when you're selling, here's the key. You cannot talk about the how. They don't care. They don't. They might feign interest. They're just making sure you're qualified to solve the problem. Trust me. They really don't care. If you can solve their problem, which is usually make money, bring in more sales, bring in more leads, if they are confident you can do that, they're going to say yes. So how do we build that confidence? Key number 3. We need to build up the benefits. What's in it for them? That's what sells. The sizzle. The sizzle. So we know the core problem. We've pretty much identified the solution we think we want to sell them. And now key number 3 is we need to build up these benefits. How do I do that? Well, when I'm sitting across from someone, or if I'm on a Zoom with them, and notice I am always trying to be live with them. I don't want to be on a phone call. I want to be on a Zoom meeting face to face where I can share my screen, or I want to be sitting across a table from them where I can show them my computer. That's the way I sell. That's the way I know I'm going to close. On a phone call, two things can happen. Number one, you don't always have their full attention because they're not looking at you. They could be doing other things. And two, you don't have the benefit of showing them things that you might want to show them. So I'm going to present the benefits to them. Now, I've already got the core problem. I've already talked about what they need. So maybe in that sales, talk in the beginning, we figured out that they need maybe 3 more customers a month. I'm going to then illustrate to them what that means. Okay, so I'm literally going to do math with them. I'm going to technically whiteboard with them. And if they come to my office and they meet in my office, we'll meet in a conference room with a whiteboard, I will stand up and go to that whiteboard. And we will sit there and do just what you see me do in past Monday Mindsets. And if you want to know where it is, just hit me up and I'll tell you, we did some speed strategy with Dave one day on this call. And in 15 minutes, we had a strategy and Dave was excited. Why? Because I was selling the Sizzle to Dave. Hey, here's your strategy. Here's where you want to go, right? Here's how much money you want to make, right? This is all you need to do. You just need these 3 customers. You just need this thing. And people get excited because when you break it down for them on the benefits and you show them, hey, listen, based on what you've told me, you don't need 100 new customers every month. You're doing the work with them. You're doing the consultative part with them. You're building up the benefits. Here's the things I can do for you. So to get 3 of those, here's the things I would do. And I have had this happen in this past. This has happened for other customers when they did this. You're starting to build up the benefits, right? What's in it for them? And then so we should be able to get you this many customers per month. But let me ask you, if I could help you, follow up and maybe close more of the leads you meet with, would that help? Oh yeah, that would be great. Some of you guys have gotten into our new program with high level, and that in that revenue system I'm going to teach, we are going to be selling the benefits. The benefits are very simple. You have people who call you, you don't close them, you never touch them again. I'm going to come in and I'm going to help you take the people you're already getting and I'm going to help you close them because I'm going to put in a system that will help you do that. Does that sound great? Notice I don't tell them about the system. I don't talk about the features of the system, or I do talk about the features. I don't talk about the how-to. Build up the benefits. Build up what's in it for them. When you get 3 or 10 or 15 leads a month, how many are you closing now? Well, not really that many. Okay, so if we could close 3 of those 15, do you agree that, this would be good for your revenue? Oh, that would be great. Build up the benefits. Every sale is going to be different. Every customer is going to be different, but these keys matter. All right. Key number 4, as you're going through, I want you to talk less, listen more. Talk less, listen more. But most importantly, I want you to listen for the self-close statement, right? So in this method, the way I sell, I'm just going in and I'm figuring out the customer's issue, their problem, their core problem. I'm getting down to the nitty gritty, what is the problem? Why aren't you getting enough leads? Why aren't you getting enough sales? What would it mean to get those? I'm getting down into it. I'm not selling. I don't have a script. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just talking to them. But as I talk to them, at some point, I am listening for what I call self-close statements. And they go a little bit like this. Okay. All right, Lisa. So that sounds really good. That's a self-close statement to me. That sounds really good. What are you waiting for? And that's what I used to stumble on back in the day, that awkward silence. I didn't know what to do or what to say because I wasn't listening for the customer to say yes. I was listening for the word yes. I was waiting for them to say unequivocally, I want that, Lisa, give it to me. And customers aren't likely to say that. Instead, in a subtle way, now there will be some that do, but for most, it's subtle. Okay, so what does it cost to get started? You have sold them. Now they just need to know what the cost is to find out if this is going to work for them. They agree it's a good solution. What is the cost? I can tell you all the great features about this steak. I can make you guys want to have lunch with me and eat this steak. But at some point, you also want to know, how much does a steak cost, right? That's a fair question. Because if the steak was $100,000, I'm out. You're out. Listen for the self-close. So another self-close statement might be, okay, so what are the next steps? That's a glaring yes. Or maybe they say something like, okay, well, I think that sounds interesting. So I call that the pause effect, right? They're pausing. They're waiting for you to say something. Are you going to bail them out? Or are you going to let them sit there in that very uncomfortable state? I'll usually jump in if they say, well, okay, so that sounds interesting. The word interesting to me is different. It's different than that sounds good. Interesting means not quite sold yet. So I'm not going in for the close, right? At that point, I'll be like, okay, well, let me ask you, do you have any questions? Is there something, about this that, you find interesting? Or you could say something like, is there something about this that, maybe you're uncomfortable with? The word interesting is a key indicator. And that's why I say, I want you to listen more, talk less. Listen. They're telling you exactly what they want to have happen next. And at some point, what you're hoping for is that self-close statement. But if you don't get it, you need to recognize what they are saying and what you need to do. Sometimes it's just a matter of saying, well, what questions do you have? As simple as that. And I said, well, I just don't understand this part. You're giving them that open door. Now, again, we only have 40 minutes today, so I can't go deep into this stuff. But if we have 20 keys, I got a big surprise for you guys. So we'll check that in a minute. Key number 5, probably the most important key we have today. When the customer says yes, stop talking and move on to the next step. I struggled with this. I was so unsure of myself in the beginning. I had so many problems with my baggage and really lack of confidence and lack of trust and everything else you can imagine, that a customer was literally saying yes in their own way. And I just kept talking and I just kept saying stuff and I just kept adding more on top. And sometimes that led to me losing a sale I had. So when the customer says yes, remember, they're not going to say, yes, please, most of the time. It's going to be, what's the next step? Or, what does it cost or whatever? You move on to the next step. You only go back if you start getting a feeling that they're not ready to close. So if they say, what's the next step? You say, well, pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and do an analysis. We're going to get that back to you. While we're doing that, I have an agreement I need you to fill out because we're an insured company. So we need that for insurance purposes. Once you get that filled out, we'll be ready to go. Silence. I say nothing else. And I'm waiting. See what they say next. When we're nervous, when we're uncomfortable, human nature will have you fidgeting, have you talking more. You start getting a little more talkative. Resist the urge. When the customer says yes, stop talking. Move on to the next step. That one key helped me close more sales. Had to get over that nervous energy, had to get over those things. So where we're going here is these 5 keys are just things we can think about. I don't want you to obsess about them. I don't want you so focused on them, you forget to focus on the customer. But they're things, if you just even had a sticky note attached to your computer that had the 5 keys to remember, to remind you. That's all it would take initially just to help you close a couple more sales. Just these little steps. These 5 keys literally turned around my sales, turned around my closing ratio to where I am today. In the beginning, my closing ratio was probably 20 or 30%. Over time, it went to 30 or 40, but it's when I started selling the Sizzle getting the core problem, and then making my sales call a consultation instead of sales. That's where I got to the place I am today, which is about a 70% close ratio. Now, I count my close ratios when they show up. So if they show up to the call, that's when I'm counting. If I get a lead and they don't answer me, I don't consider that a close because I wasn't trying to sell them yet. That's a lead. Different. When you're talking about your sales calls, whether it be in person or over Zoom or even over the phone, that's where you want to start keeping track. Keep track. Don't let it dissuade you to keep track. Now, I actually love meeting with customers. I'm going on a customer sales call today, this afternoon. It's a second call. So the customer had me out the first time, and I must have piqued their interest enough because they went back and talked about it. They were talking to a few other companies. They're calling me back. I had a call last week with another company that at the end dropped we're going to contact a few more companies. Same thing. Got an email from them over the weekend that they'd like me to come back out next week. Sometimes you don't get a yes the first time, but that's okay. I wasn't looking for the yes. I went to those meetings, both of those, and one's a small customer and one's a very big customer. But I treated them both the same way. I went out there to figure out what their problems were first. Once I knew that, I then gave myself time and said, I'd like to go back and noodle some solutions for you based on what you've shared with me. Can we set a second meeting? I rarely try to close on the first call, especially for big ticket items. The call today, the meeting today, we're talking about a $5,000 to $10,000 a month customer. I'm not rushing that, taking my time and doing it right. But here's the key. These 5 keys help me feel very comfortable with customers because I'm no longer selling. I'm just coming in and helping them solve their problems. And if I hear a problem that I think I could solve, that I know I have a solution that would work for them, then I'm all in and I'm going to let them know. If I don't, I'm going to tell them that too. And I'm not going to try to sell them something that doesn't fit. So remember, in that, there's actually no sales or closing. And that's what changed my mind. That's what started making me feel much more comfortable. I'm just problem solving and finding if I have a solution for them. It's really great to find out in a sales call what the real problem is, because you know right away if you have a solution for them. If I have someone who comes to me and says, I am going to be foreclosed on, this happened to me once, I'm going to be foreclosed on in 2 weeks if I don't turn this around. I can't do anything in 2 weeks to help somebody. I can't even get ads approved and running and tested. I can't. And I'm not going to take their hard-earned money. So no, I didn't close that sale, but guess what? It's also not a lose for me. In my bucket, I would call that a neutral, right? So think about that. And remember Elmer Wheeler. He taught me to sell the sizzle, not the steak. In other words, sell the thing the customer desires, not the thing itself, right? I desire more leads because I want more money, because I have a mortgage to pay. I have kids that need to go to college. I have a house to pay off. I want a second home. There's reasons why people want what they want. If you can get that deep with them, that's the key. And yes, I have a little surprise at the end of the call where I'm going to talk to you about how we are going to help you get deep like that. All right, so don't fall into the trap of selling the service. Sell the product, and don't by any means get into tech talk. No tech talk. If you're selling websites, if you're selling SEO, no tech talk. We're not going to talk to them about anything highly technical. It's a mistake. I did it for years and I did close, but at a much lower rate. I had to get in front of way more people. Today, I promise you, if I took that exact same people and sold the way I sold today instead of the way I sold yesterday, I would have closed a much greater percentage of them. It's not the people. There's rarely bad leads coming your way. Keep that in mind. All right. One last thing I will say. Our job is to leave the customer with no confusion. When we get into tech talk, we confuse. So don't talk tech. Confused people will not buy a thing. They will not buy a thing. People are hiring you. And if you make that good impression, if they know you're consultative, if they know you're there for the end result, I want to know about you, Mr. Customer. I want to know what your problems are. I want to know why you need this so bad. Because then I'm really engaged with you and I have a stake in it too now. I'm in the game with you. I got skin in the game. If you say I just need more leads, no big deal to me. But when you say, hey, I want to put my kid through college, now I've got incentive to want to help you put your kid through college. When we talk to customers like that, they're going to hire us each and every time. Now, I know it's not easy. I come here every week. I give you guys motivation. Sometimes I drop some heavy stuff. Sometimes I don't. Obviously, learning my 5 keys today is not going to help you close a sale tomorrow. And maybe it does for a few of you. It's practice. We need more and more practice. And if you're in one of our training programs, you're probably well on your way. And this is just reinforcement for you, little extra nuggets. But if you're not, I highly encourage you to reach out to me, schedule a strategy call. It's the end of the year. If you want 2022 to be great, schedule a call with me. I'll tell you about our programs. If they're a good fit, if they would solve your problems, it's up to you if you want to buy them. You learned today that I don't sell. I listen for your problem, and then I listen to see if you're interested in what I have in a solution. If both of those things work out, great, you can get into a program. If not, you got a free strategy session. So if you are interested in that, just type the word strategy in the comments. I'll reach out to you. We'll set up a one-on-one call, just me, you on Zoom or what have you. And then we can have that strategy call. Now, if you've had a strategy call with me, we only do this once, but I'm feeling in the spirit. So if you're not in one of our programs and you've had a strategy call with me in the past, this is my offer to let you do it again, just to see where you are at today, to see if something's changed. Just type strategy in the comments. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. This is awesome. I did say I was going to get you a free gift if we got 20 people to comments. And I'm going to come out here, take a look. Let's see. So we were on 16, 17, 18. Come on. We're only at 18, guys. All right. I'll tell you what. Close enough. 18. I got 18 of you guys to actually type in the word key. If you haven't, go out there right now. So I'm not a liar, right? I want to get 20. But here's what I'm going to do for you guys. I am going to, as I said, give you a special gift in the spirit of the holiday season. And I have like some time on my hands the week between Christmas and New Year. So I apologize if this week doesn't work out for you. There will be a replay. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a private group sales training call with me called the Keys to Closing. And we're going to get a little bit more granular. We're going to dig in a little bit farther. For those of you guys that are in our programs, it's probably going to be a little extra credit for you guys. But for those of you guys who aren't, you're going to see how we train in our programs. So it's kind of like a little sneak peek of what's to come if you join one of our programs. Now, this is not going to be a listen and take notes like these Monday mindsets. We're going to make it live. It's going to be 2 hours. It's going to be a value-packed session. I am teaching. I am training. You guys have your mics on. Your cameras and mics are hot. You get to participate, ask questions. And even if we have time, we'll do a little role playing. So a really good session. It's an extra session we're going to add on. And I'm going to give that gift to anyone that types key on that Facebook post, because that's how I'm going to know how to reach out to you. We're not going to make it public. We're not going to tell anybody anywhere else. If you haven't watched this video, if you haven't typed key, if you're not paying attention in the client acquisition and scaling group, you're not going to get it. So you guys are special. I really am going to do it with just the people who show up. So what I need you to do is just pay attention to your Facebook Messenger. I'm going to send the invite there, and only to those people that post and replied key. Now, I'm fair. If you happen to be watching the replay or you're watching our YouTube replay. Now, the YouTube replay is usually a month away, so we've probably already had the session. But if you're watching the replay or you're watching the YouTube video, if you will type key in the comments, we will send you the replay link. I feel like that's fair enough. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope this Monday mindset gets your week off to an amazing and productive start. I know that I come here to get the same motivation you guys. It pumps me up, gets me ready for the week, and I get a lot of great things done. And remember, guys, to change your business, first start by changing your mindset. That is the number one asset you have, is your mind. Thanks for joining us on our Monday Mindset, everyone. Have a productive, profitable week. And as the holidays are upon us, yes, I will be here next week with you guys as well. And the week after, I don't plan on taking this off because I love doing these mindsets. So, but if for some reason you don't come, have a joyous, happy, and wonderful holiday.